So we're in episode 38. We're actually coming, Football Journals, it's still in Murray, but we're coming to you from the other side of the world tonight because we've got Mr. Ronnie Dunbar, who's out in New Zealand. Whereabouts in New Zealand are you actually specifically at, Ronnie?
I'm in Christchurch now, Lee. Christchurch in the South Island. It's probably the biggest city in the South Island in New Zealand. So, yeah, a long way for Elgin.
Absolutely. You were just saying though that you do manage to get back every couple of years, and then when you're due back, you do manage to try and get a game at Barrabriggs and things when you're home as well.
Yeah, no, I still try and get to games when I go back. As I say, every couple of years I'll go back. I've got my daughter and 2 granddaughters still there. So yeah, I try and get back reasonably regular and catch up with a lot of the old mates from back in the day. I normally have a couple of beers with them somewhere. Got a game. Try and get to Barrabriggs and Forest. Obviously, had a long time at Forest, so I always go to a few games at Forest as well. So
absolutely,
still lots of friends in Forest and Elgin. So yeah, always catch up with them.
Brilliant. Always go back to start, Ronnie. How good a football player as a kid? What age did you realise you had a bit of potential?
Well, that's a good question actually, because I've never thought myself as anything, like certainly nothing special, put it that way, but not even good enough to be playing at the level I eventually got to. I'm probably fortunate I did, because I'm sure there's a lot better players than me never played at that level, But again, you had an old mate of mine, Chico, on the other week there, and we were actually born and brought up in the same street.
Right, you
in Duncan Drive in Elgin, and although Chico's probably maybe 18 months, 2 years older than me, we always out in the street playing football all the time. That's all you did. Home from school, dump the gear, and then you got shout in for your tea. That was it. The usual. I mean, I've heard a few of your podcasts, and a lot of the guys at my age are around about it, similar. Yeah. No mobile phones,
no distractions,
no computers. There wasn't a Fitbit on the TV all the time. So yeah, all you did was want to go and play. So, and we did that regular. So although again, go back to Chico, up to the age of probably 10, 11, would be on the street, and then obviously Chico was doing, obviously he had a lot of family ties at Elgin City anyway.
Yeah.
But he would have been down at Barrabriggs by that time all the time. So he sort of disappeared off the street pretty early, really. But we were still playing. There's lots of guys came out of Duncan Drive. Jay Anderson. I don't know if you remember Jay Anderson.
No, I don't. No.
He goes to Barrabriggs every week. He always stands with Neefy up the back behind the goals there.
Okay.
Jay was another Duncan driver. He didn't play Highland League, but he played for Bishop Mill United for a long time as well, Jay.
Yeah.
But that was the early days, and luckily I would say, so got the boys' club, coming through, once you've got through the playing on the streets as youngsters, into Elgin Boys Club. I remember my first season, the boys' club, Crusaders C was my first club there, and we won I don't know what we 10, 11 years old, whatever at that time.
Yeah, it is, aye.
I remember we won the league and the cup my first season, and we thought we were superstars.
Aye, you do.
Yeah. But the boys' league was a great grounding for lots of guys in Elgin.
Aye.
I mean, the guys you've talked to and guys you'll know, we've all come through the boys' club,
Yep.
So you had the boys' club, went through that, and then schools football. Again, we had a good team, but I was so lucky again. At school, I had guys in my school team, like Neefy. Neefy was my school team. And here's the thing, Neefy, I don't know if you know this, Neefy used to be a goalkeeper.
Right, okay.
And so did I. We both had a wee spell in goals at school.
So I actually found this out yesterday, and it was Graham Gulhooley that told me that.
Graham's another Duncan driver. He was born or brought up in Duncan Drive as well.
Yep. Yeah, he told me this yesterday because I said to him that you were coming on, and he was telling me about yourself. He was telling me about Neefy, and he says Neefy actually used to be a goalie, and he says I'm pretty sure that Ronnie used to be a goalie as well.
Yeah, very true.
What age did you play goalie until, Ronnie?
I seen a played goalie. I never really I stuck to it. I was in and out of goals, you know.
Aye.
I was, as I said, I never thought I was anything or a decent outfield player, if you like, so going goals.
Right.
Then eventually got my wee shot outfield and whatever. But again, the school team, Neefy, John Teasdale, although John and Neef, they were a year younger than me, but they all played in the same school team.
Yeah.
John Teasdale, there's a guy called John Clayton. I don't know if you've heard of John, but
I've heard the name of that before, yeah.
John left school, signed for Derby County, and he played pro football. Well, and he'd been in his 30s. I think he finished, he had a bad ankle injury. I think it finished him in the end, you know.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me, but yeah, John was a top player at school, you know. So again, that school team was such a good team, and guys, most of that team either went like full time, like John Teasdale or John Clayton, or at least played hide and league, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of them got the juniors as well. So it was a good school team. Yeah.
Brilliant. Football team's your sport, Ronnie?
Am I allowed to tell you this?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll be quite honest. Anyone asks me which football team I support, I'm a Man United man.
Aye. Okay.
Right? I know you look, everyone says Celtic or Rangers, whatever. And I became a Man United fan on listen to this date, the 29th of February, 1972.
Okay, I'm trying to figure
the
it out.
29th of February, also leap year.
Mm-hmm.
Day 1972. That's the day they signed a guy called Martin Buchan from Aberdeen.
Yep.
I thought Martin Buchan was like the best. I was like 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Martin Buchan was such a good player, you know. And he signed for United, and that's since then. But I used to go occasionally. I know a mate of mine in Elgin, Ian McAllister.
Yes, aye.
Ian had the St Leonard's Hotel, and Ian's a big Celtic man.
Yep.
Like, big Celtic.
Good man.
And he used to take me to some games now and again, you know. So I used to go see the Celtic games. But yeah, I would probably, if you're looking at blue or green, I would probably be erring on the green side, to be honest.
Yep. So would you say that Martin Buchan was your football idol growing up, Ronnie?
Well, he was in a way, but Martin was a defender, you know, like centre half sweeper type guy. I think he's still the only person to captain a team to win the Scottish Cup and the FA Cup.
Is that right? Wow. As a start,
lots of guys have done it, but not as captain, you know.
No.
So I'm pretty sure you might want to check that one later, but I'm pretty sure that's still a fact, you know. But yeah, no, George Best was my hero, like growing up, if you like, you know. Just Georgie Best this, Georgie Best that. I remember posters on the wall in the bedroom, all this stuff as a kid. And Dennis as well, poor Dennis, just passed away there recently.
Yeah.
Dennis Law, he obviously being Scottish as well, you know. These guys were probably heroes to me.
Superstars at the time as well.
Oh, in their day.
Yeah.
They were the Ronaldos of today, if you like, you know. So
absolutely.
They were top players. But again, even now I'll watch old games.
Yes.
You know, games in the 60s, 70s, 80s even. Some of the footballs, it's good to watch, and like they're not playing on like bowling greens like they're playing today.
Not at all. No.
You know, and some of the tackles, I mean, there'll be half them sent off today.
Yeah. It's maybe a question I'm going to start including in the podcast for guys that maybe played before the 80s, Ronnie, is how would you feel playing on AstroTurf today?
Oh, I think I would struggle with AstroTurf.
Yeah.
I was home not last time, so it'd be say 4 or 5 years ago maybe. I went through to Banks of D with Forest Mechanics when they were playing through there.
Yeah.
And they've got artificial pitch there.
Yeah, I've just had a game there with the women's team, and it's
all right,
it's a nightmare.
Yeah. I thought I just didn't fancy that at all, you know. I've never even been on the stuff. I don't know. I did go down to the Gleaner arena place when I was back last year just to watch some of the guys doing the walking football.
Yep.
I thought no, I don't know. I didn't fancy it at all.
Aye,
I liked it when it was like surfaces were wet and
aye.
Probably from my point of view a bit muddy and all the rest of it. A lot of the skill factor went out the window, so I got away with it. I didn't have too many silky touches, Lee, to be honest. But no, here I was, as I say, and that's one thing I always say. I got away with it for the better part of 20 years, playing in the Highland League. So I suppose I did. I did okay.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Early days at Lossie, then Ronnie.
Yeah, well, I ended up going down to Lossie. I was only like 14, maybe 15.
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby Wilson
Oh, aye,
came
yeah,
up.
that's a name you don't hear very often.
Yeah, Bobby Wilson came up from Dundee. Was it? He definitely played for Dundee. I can't remember if he came straight from Dundee up to Lossie as like player manager.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple of guys that I knew were going down to Lossie at the time. So I ended up just going down to train, And there was a few times early on when like Lossie had a good bunch of players.
Yeah.
And like individually, some of them were really good players, but they never seemed to gel. And they were always Lossie. They're always sort of certainly bottom half, maybe bottom 4 or 5 in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple of times I was still at school, and I was on the bench for Lossie, so it'd have been maybe 15.
Yeah.
Almost 16 probably. And there was once I played for the school in the morning and had come on as a sub for Lossie. I played about 10 minutes in the afternoon.
Aye.
And
it's mad that.
you wouldn't believe that today.
No, you wouldn't.
There's not a chance in hell of that happening today, So that was my start at Lossie, 15-16. Then at the end of that season, Bobby Wilson got the Keith manager's job.
Yeah.
And he asked me to go up there and just start playing the youth team at Keith. And so I did that. I mean, I never signed for Lossie prior to that, and I never signed for Keith when I went up there. But I played in the youth team at Keith with a lot of guys, ex-Elgin guys. Nicky Walker was the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Neil Fivey. A few guys like that up at Keith. But Keith first team, they were just at the start of winning. They won the league, Highland League, three years in a row.
Yeah.
And I did the full pre-season with Keith. Played in a couple of like pre-season friendlies and whatever. And I was never going to get a game in the first team at Keith.
Strong team at the time.
They had a great team at the time. It was like strikers where I was playing up front. Also, they still had the Raymond O'Hara, Ace O'Hara as he was known, wee stocky guy, what a goal scorer. Ray O'Hara. They still had Dennis Bruce, Malcolm McDonald. Malky, I think, stays in Lossiemouth now. Malcolm, Jimmy Guyan, and they were about to sign Kevin Bremner.
Yeah.
So there's no way I was going to get a game for Keith. I'm only 16 or so at this time.
Yeah.
So Bobby put me out to Isle of Vale.
Okay.
And I played probably half a season for Isle of Vale. And that's when I met the Keith guys who later in life ended up playing at Forest with,
Aye.
Like Gordon Winton, Boogle Winton. I don't know if you've heard of
No.
Boogle.
No, I've not.
And Graham Rogers. It was Graham and Neil Rogers. Unfortunately, Neil passed away. But I had half a season with Isle of Vale.
Mm-hmm.
Then Harry Owens was manager of Lossie, so he asked me back to Lossie. So, and I wasn't sure, but I thought, well, I've more chance of getting a game in the first team with Lossie at that age than Keith.
Aye.
So I went there and I started playing regular fairly quickly, So and again, we had a good bunch of guys, some good players, but again, just never seemed to make anything of it. Always sort of bottom floor of the league.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, again, being very fortunate, if you like, a couple of we've talked about my heroes, George Best and all these guys, but locally, heroes to me were George Gilbert and Jerry Graham.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elgin, But these guys, they were at the end of their playing days, and I'm obviously just starting out. They both came down and played for Lossie for a season, and I was playing with these guys. I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm playing with these guys. Were my hero when I was 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I always remember one game. We played Carly, first game of the season up at Telford Street, and like Lossie Carly were just all over us.
Mm-hmm.
They could have probably scored 10 in the first half, but it was 0-0 late on in the game, and we got a penalty. Of course, Jerry, being Jerry, he said, I'm taking the penalty, you know. Nobody was going to argue with Jerry, you know. So he actually told the goalkeeper where he was going to put it. Billy McDonald, I can still see it to this day, Billy McDonald was in goal, and Jerry says it's going in the bottom right corner, you know. And of course, Billy dived the opposite way, and Jerry put it in the bottom right corner. Lossie beat all that day. That was the first game of the season, you know. But yeah, we didn't really make much more of it after that.
No.
But, yeah, that was a thrill for me to play with these guys.
Aye.
You know.
Yeah.
Because they were great players in their day, and like I'm going back to when I was a kid. If you like, going to watch Elgin, sort of late '60s, early '70s.
Mm-hmm.
That was the team.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great team to watch. Like, yeah. So no, so I was lucky there, as I say, getting to play with these guys at that stage. So yeah, ended up was it three seasons at Lossie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I've got a chance to play. Oh, I mean, I think anyone, wherever you come from, you want to play for your hometown.
Absolutely.
You know? And I was not any different to anyone else, you know. So always, I really wanted to play for Elgin City. That was my goal. But again, I'd never had confidence.
No,
you know?
No, okay, yeah.
No way I could ever play for Elgin City, you know. But as fortune would have it, it was actually a clerical error with Lossie. It was towards the, or was it the end of one season or like close season or something? There was a clerical error, and all the contracts were null and void. You know, so every player at Lossie was freed. Yeah, but a lot of guys maybe did the right thing and just re-signed because it was an error. You know, but I thought, well, I've got a chance to do something. I might, you know, if anyone's looking to sign me,
absolutely,
I'll leave it open to see what happens. You know. So fortunately at that time, going back to Frazee Kellis, that close season he had a testimonial against Dundee United.
Yep.
And that was just at the time, like Dundee United, sort of the league winning team, 82, 83, or whatever, around about that time. And Frazee invited me to play. Yeah, I'd known Frazee most of my life, you know, so he invited me to play in that game. So I played for Elgin that day, or that night, against the Dundee United. And after that, Elgin asked if I'd be interested in signing for Elgin. Like, I was free to sign for anyone, you know.
Yep.
So they just had a new manager come in, a guy called Ian Cumming.
Yes, aye.
Ian came down from Inverness Thistle to manage Elgin, and Ian called me up and asked me, you know, be interested, and I said, yeah, it's a dream of mine to play for Elgin City, you know. And I've followed Elgin, like I'm Bishop Mill born and bred, you know, so
absolutely, mate.
5 minutes to Bannerbriggs on a Saturday, and running home to find out the scores at 5 o'clock in Sports Reel or something like that. So signed for Elgin, and I was just 20. 20. Signed for Elgin when I was 20. That's right.
Yeah.
And again, fortune, as I say, I've been very lucky with the way things have panned out. First competitive game for Elgin was up at Inverness Thistle. The League Cup, the Highland League Cup, used to be played at the start of the season. Time. And we played Inverness Thistle away, which was Ian Cummings' old club. You know, he just left them to come to Elgin, and we played them up at Kings Mills. And Ian took quite a lot of players with him from Inverness Thistle, so there was these guys going back, if you like, you know, the first game back at their old club.
Aye.
Elgin won 5-0, you know, and it could have been 6 or 7 easily. Unfortunately, you know, as a striker, you want to off the mark, scoring goals as soon as possible. So I got a goal that night. And then we played. That was a Wednesday. Second game was Peterhead at home on Saturday, and we won 4-1. And I got 2.
Yeah. So
I got off to a great start.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And the team was buzzing. We had to start with, we had a guy called Brian Mackay who was in goal to start with. Okay. Then Ronnie Brown, right back, what a player. Ronnie Brown was a great player, you know. We had George McAndrew, sweeper, Chico, Frazee.
Yeah.
Ernie Drews, John Ironside, all these guys, Jimmy Guy, and the guy I mentioned before, he's a real good player, you know. So Les Armstrong, don't know if you've heard of Les. Les was I played up front with Les at Elgin. He was actually at Middlesbrough as a youngster.
Okay.
And back up. So yeah, no, we got off to a great start, and then we won the League Cup at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the best games I've ever played in. Sorry.
No, I was speaking to Chico before you came up on, and he says I'm pretty sure Ronnie was part of that League Cup. He says it was against Peterhead in Keith. He says.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. We won. Elgin won 4-3.
Yeah.
You know, in the cup final. It was a Wednesday night, and the crowd. I wouldn't like to say what the crowd was, but it was it'd been the thousands. You know, it was a big crowd that night, and fortunately, I like to say I scored the winner, but it was actually I made it 4-2.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
And Peterhead got one back, so it turned out to be the winner. But because I got two. I got one. Frazee got two, and Les Armstrong got the other. Yeah. And that was their front three.
Aye.
You know, Frazee was a winger, and Les and I were through the middle. You know, so so the three of us got the 4 goals between us on that night. So that was the first trophy Elgin had won in maybe 6 or 7 seasons.
Yeah.
You know, so and it was a start of it was a good couple of seasons, but we should have done better really with the team that we had. You know, I mean we won the North Cup as well that season. We were second in the league. You know, which was a good achievement because Elgin hadn't really been near the league at that time, or a chance of winning it. You know, so we did all right that first season. Qualified for the Scottish Cup.
Aye,
you know, so in fact both only had 2 seasons at Elgin, but both seasons we qualified for the Scottish Cup. Which in the day, I mean, you'll ask guys my age or around about, you had to qualify to play in the Scottish Cup.
Aye,
you just didn't get entry like you do nowadays.
No.
The qualifying cup, as it was called, the 4 semi-finalists qualified for the Scottish Cup proper, you know. So
yeah.
So my abiding memory of the Scottish Cup games, we were drawn away to Meadowbank Thistle.
Yes, aye.
Who Livingston nowadays.
It is.
I mean, I'm back 40 years from, but they were Meadowbank at the time. They played the Commonwealth Stadium in Edinburgh, and they were I think they were about 10 points clear at the top of the 2nd division. I think they were in at the time. So no one really gave us much of a hope. So we went down there and we lost a goal in 30 seconds.
Wow,
you know?
Yeah.
And we were up against it here. But we turned it round and we beat them 2-1. You know, Frazee scored a penalty to win it. I always remember that. But my abiding memory of the trip home, and these are things that don't really happen nowadays, I don't think. The trip back up the road, unbelievable. You know, we've got the carry out in the bus, and we've all got the beers going and singing and carrying on and whatever. And a lot of the guys were from Aberdeen at that time. They played for Elgin, and we stopped in Forfar of all places on the way back up just for a small shandy, you know. And what I can remember that night is Frazee Kellis standing on top of a table, a bar table, singing "The Road and the Miles to Dundee." And he never missed a word. he was just belting it out, you know, but that was great fun, you know.
Aye.
We had a great result, and having a night like that on the way home, just so good.
Tops it off, absolutely.
Yeah. But no, some great times, the Scottish Cup runs and whatever, you know. So
yeah,
and we played Dunfermline down at East End Park one time. Sorry, and we get beat 5-0 that day, but it could have been probably 10 to be honest. But,
aye.
Yeah. These things happen.
They do, Ronnie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go forward with one question and I'll come back a bit. I'm interested because this is actually turned into one of my favourite questions. What's your first World Cup memories, Ronnie? 'Cause it's normally the kick-off of football in a young man's life. My first memory World Cup in 1970. Again, where I'd been 9 years old. I remember watching the black and white TV anyway. Pele.
And the great Brazil team, Pele, Jorginho, who's the goal, Carlos Alberto.
Yes.
All these guys. But great to watch. You know, I mean, I've seen me watching, just going onto YouTube or finding some of these old clips and just watching some of that games.
Yep.
You know, so 1970 World Cup was the one that I remember first.
Aye.
You know.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I can't remember 66, so that's great.
No, nobody wants to remember that one. It's all right. It's not an important one.
yeah. But again, I suppose 74 was good because obviously Scotland had qualified, first time Scotland qualified in a long time. And again, that ended in disappointment. They did well. They never lost a game, you know. And it's funny, to this day, I think New Zealand and Scotland are the only teams to have been knocked out of the World Cup without losing a game.
Yeah.
There's another stat.
Yeah, there we go. Aye.
2010, New Zealand drew their 3 games and they got knocked out. So apparently Scotland and New Zealand are the only 2 they've done that.
That's mental, that. Like.
Yeah, that 74 World Cup, and then obviously moving on. The World Cups were good. We had a great run. Scotland, 74, 78, 82, 86, 90.
Yep.
In fact, I've still got a Scotland top here. It's got France 98 on it.
France 98. So if the question was reversed on me, Ronnie, what's my first World Cup memories? 98's mine. Colin Hendry walking out against Brazil and things like that. It's, So
the other thing now, Colin Hendry, sorry to interrupt, Lily.
No, you're all right.
Colin was, although, I was at Colin's a couple of years or so younger than me, but he was at Keith, as you know, probably before he went to Dundee then on better things, and Isle of Vale, but I've never ever met Colin Hendry.
Never met him? No.
Never ever met him. No.
Well, hopefully come into a Football Journal episode soon.
I'm
hoping so, mate. I'm hoping so.
Yeah, he'll have some good stories, I'm sure.
Right, Ronnie, interesting one here, because I'm going to get on to your Forest and because the Forest was a bulk of your career in the Highland League and things like that. I'm going to get on to that just shortly. But I'm going to ask this question before we get on, these 2 questions before we get on to it. Who's the best player you played with in your career?
Well, I'd say the best player I've ever played with was Pelly Patterson.
Yeah. Great answer.
Stevie Patterson, he was just head and shoulders, you know. I mean, he came to Forest the season we won the league. And, I mean, there's no doubt he made a big difference to our team. But he only played, I think it was 11 games, league games.
Yeah.
You know? And at that time, the season we won it, there was only 32 league games. There was 17 teams in the league. You know, so there's only 32 league games. And, well, Pelly basically played a third of them, you know. But when he did come, head and shoulders, you know, he was just such a good player. And a great lad. I mean, I haven't seen him in a long time now, obviously been over here, but I always used to catch up with him when I was at home and whatever.
Aye.
Play golf with him. He was the worst golfer ever. Like for an athlete, and think like eye to ball coordination, whatever. Jesus Christ. A good lad. I had so many good times with Pelly over the years, you know.
Absolutely, mate.
But yeah, no, when he came, it just boosted us greatly. There's no doubt about that, you know. So I would say he was the best player I played with, you know.
On the other side of that question, Ronnie, who's the best player you've played against?
Well, I was thinking about that. I mean, lucky again, I've been fortunate to play against the good Aberdeen teams. Like when Ferguson was manager at Aberdeen, we used to play them, pre-season games, friendly games, whatever. So, like against McLeish, Miller, all these guys, you know, defenders, wherever, top defenders. But to me, and it's gone back to Fraser Kelly's benefit match, if you like, Dundee United, Richard Gough, I would say was the best and probably the hardest player as well. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of Richard Gough, you know, like big and muscular, whatever.
No, he wasn't.
When he hit you, you knew you were hit.
Aye.
And fortunately, I only played against him once, but Christ, he gave me a good old lesson there. So
he could read the game very well as well, Richard. He was a very intelligent player.
I always thought he would have been the best player. I mean, you can't go past like Sir Willie Miller and Alec McLeish and all these guys for being top players, you know. But Richard Gough for me would have been the best player I think I'd played against.
In terms of opposition within the Highland League, is there anyone that used to stick out that used to give you a particularly hard time, Ronnie?
Well, funny, it's probably one of the guys, and it's I used to have some great battles.
Aye.
You would go out there and you would give it your best shot, regardless. And I never, never looking for accolades or whatever. But I always got the story that whatever happens, I always tried hard. I always tried my best and gave what I could.
Aye.
And you're coming up against guys like Peter Corbett, Davy Milroy, Carly Inverness Thistle. But one of the hardest guys, and this guy was as hard as nails as well, but a total gentleman. There's a guy called John Siverite, played for Peterhead.
Right.
And John was, I think John's a school teacher, mild-mannered guy, but a lovely, lovely guy. And I very seldom got the better of him.
Yeah.
I mean, saying that, I'm 6'3". John was about 6'6".
Aye.
So it was, he was a big guy. But again, battles, Willie Lawson, Frank Krakowski, guys like that at Huntley and Peterhead. Jesus. There's some great games, but end of the game, you shake hands, go for a beer.
That's it.
Yeah. And talk about the game and how many kicks you got and how many kicks you got at them. But yeah, no, it was good days. There were some great players in the Highland League. For me, anyway, late 70s, the whole 80s and early 90s, I think it was a great time to be playing Highland League. Yeah, lots of good players, lots of good teams.
Aye.
I don't think the Highland League's recovered really from the loss of like Elgin for a start, Elgin, Cali, Ross County, Inverness Thistle, Peterhead, Cove now as well. So yeah, I don't think it's been the same, but that was a great league to play in. Yeah, great
Absolutely.
league. I mean, there are guys that would go. Well, Billy Eckert. I mean, Billy's a mate of mine now. He was out in New Zealand a few years ago. And Billy went from Cali to Rangers, and he's almost straight in the first team at Rangers, going from the Highland League.
Aye.
So the league was good.
Yeah. Doesn't happen nowadays, does it? Doesn't happen nowadays.
Yeah. I've watched a few games, Highland League games, when I go back, and I don't know. There's just there used to be a good atmosphere about games, and now they seem a bit flat for some reason. So
aye.
But I suppose you look at the whole level. I mean, the Scottish football. I mean, it's not the same.
No, it's declining.
I mean, I get that. I can watch all that, the Scottish football live on TV here.
Yeah.
Scottish football, English Premiership, European Champions League, all the football. And I must admit, I've struggled to sit and watch a full Scottish game, if you like. Just doesn't seem the same. There's no atmosphere or whatever, But
I know exactly what you're saying. No, I know exactly what you're saying, Ronnie. It's just it's not the same game. It's not the same game. And as you say, late 70s, late 70s into the 80s, early 90s. It's a glory period for the Highland League. A lot of good teams, especially when you're talking about the good Inverness teams and the Elgin teams of the late 70s, and then you're going through to say the Huntley teams of the 90s and things like that.
Again, I think it's lacking what I would say characters.
Aye, that's a great word for it. No, you're fine.
Losing you there. Anyway, we're all good. It's go back and I think every player will say, "I'll go back in my day" type thing, But there was your Charlie Duncans, Rexy Hunter, just real characters. Peter Corbett, these guys, great guys, and you knew you were in a game with them, but there was always a good bit of banter going about as well.
Aye, and I suppose you were a bit better off when you had guys like Chico next to you,
Chico's
nothing to fear.
You would rather have it in your side than against you,
Absolutely.
And I'll be quite honest, Chico and I had some battles when we played against each other.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't think twice of just giving you the elbow in the chin or whatever. We've been mates. We're born and bred in the same street, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
We've been mates all our life, but how you would think nothing of that? But again, you're going to have a pint afterwards.
That's it. Play to win.
Yeah.
So after Elgin, you had, was it 2 years? You said, Ronnie, at Elgin, 2 seasons.
Yeah, it was just 2 years at Elgin. As I say, I would have probably liked to been at Elgin all my days, really, but. Second season, things sort of started to change a wee bit. I wasn't playing near as much. And one of the main reasons, if you like, that I was looking to get away was that we're Elgin boys, like Chico, myself, Freezy, Lossie, obviously, but we were the only local boys. Well, Neefy had come in at that time.
Aye.
I think Neefy was there at that time. Yeah, it must have been. But most of the team was Aberdeen based.
Mm-hmm.
And a few times that, during the season, we had to go to Aberdeen to train.
Yes, I've heard this before.
Cheaper to put 3 or 4 guys to Aberdeen and take a dozen this way,
Yeah.
So I must admit, I was a wee bit sort of peed off with that. And I probably got a wee bit disillusioned by not playing. I was on the bench most of the time or whatever, I wasn't really playing that much. So towards the end of the season, I was thinking, right, what do I do? They did offer me another contract, or I think at that time it was a bit strange because they signed a contract. I signed 2 years with a year's option,
mm-hmm.
but it was the club's option, not my option.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, but after your 2 years, you weren't free because they still had the option on you.
Aye.
So they did offer me the option, if you like, to stay, and I said, well, I'd rather just go and play.
Aye,
I'd rather go somewhere and play football than sit in the bench. I'm only 22, 23 almost, yeah. So yeah, I thought, well, I could go back to Lossie. I know I could go back and play at Lossie and
mm-hmm.
just play regular on a Saturday, whatever,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's never about the money or anything like that, I mean, you hear about that all the time nowadays, that players are after this and that and the other, I mean, all you do is want to play.
Aye.
I mean, whatever you got, money-wise was just a few beers after the game. That was it.
No, exactly. That's it.
That was it. So, I was just quite happy. I was going to go back to Lossie. Then Ian Cumming called me up and said that Forest are interested, And I remember the first thing I said to Ian, I said, I'm not going to Forest, I said, I'll go to Lossie. I'll be fine. I'll be okay. Because at the stage, Forest were roughly similar to Lossie at the time, so bottom half the table.
Yeah.
Ever. But Forrest sort of persisted, and I eventually spoke to Harry McFadden, who was manager at Forrest at the time, and Harry's assistant, Alec Gordon.
Yeah.
Alec's still in Elgin. Alec must be getting on a bit now, though. But anyway, Alec kind of persisted, and he came to my house a few times, and I eventually agreed to go and train
mm-hmm.
Forrest, And there's always been this sort of wee rivalry thing between Forrest and Elgin, that Forrest don't like the Elgin guys and whatever, So I went through there to train, and Toshi, Davy McIntosh, I think Toshi's chairman of Forrest now. Donny McCulloch, the late Donny McCulloch, unfortunately. Forrest guys,
Yeah.
But they took me in, and they sort of looked after me, and it was from day one. It was great, So I decided, okay, I'll sign. So I signed a 2-year contract to go to Forest, So I ended up there. It was 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, as fortune happens, as I said many times before, Forest were on the up prior to that. Probably just slightly moved up the table, maybe top 6, 8 in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And a few guys, well, Soapy, again, go back to Soapy Cameron. He was already there. Okay, so I knew him. Gordon Winton, Graham Rogers, guys I'd played with at Isle of Vale previous.
Yes,
they were all there, So I went through, and again we started off well. Again, as I said, scored my first few games, got off to a good start.
Mm-hmm. It's important.
Gets the confidence up straight away.
Yeah.
And I probably had lost a bit of confidence when I was at Elgin by not playing the second season.
Yeah.
That Harry got me going again, and and we got the League Cup final early on in the season, and that was my first game back at Barrabriggs since I left Elgin.
Wow, okay, that's a big one then. Yeah.
And we played Bucky in the League Cup final, and Bucky were strong favourites, and fortunately we won 1-0, and of course I managed to get the goal.
Yeah.
Aye. So I can remember standing in front of the Barrabriggs stand, hands up, as if to say, well, what might have been, but never mind.
Absolutely.
But that's the day that we had the ex-Scotland international playing in goals for Forest that day. We had our main goalkeeper, Derek Harris, got injured maybe 2 weeks prior to that.
Okay.
We'd already signed Bobby Gray from Keith, but Bobby was cup-tied for the League Cup.
Yes.
So we no goalkeeper going into the final. And I still, to this day, I don't know how they managed it, but we got Bobby Clark, who played for Aberdeen in Scotland.
I know. Oh, wow. Just for one game.
Bobby Clark signed and played for one game. And I always say, Bobby, he had a great, although Bucky were on top most of the game, he didn't have too many saves to make,
Aye.
But I remember late on in the game, we were up 1-0, and he had an unbelievable save, to win us the cup. Although the goal counted to win the cup, if you like. That save won it as much as the goal did.
Aye. Yeah.
But no, he was a tall fuck, say Bobby. Yeah. I actually met him last year when I was home. He lives in Lossiemouth, so he's on the golf course at Lossie every day.
Right, okay.
I went down to meet up with him, So that was a good meeting. So yeah, again, good start. Won the League Cup. Yeah, and I think that first season we had the Inverness Cup. I don't know if that's still in the go, actually, the Inverness Cup.
I've not heard of that, no.
Yeah, but that was a good... I think Elgin played in that a few times, not all the time, but like Forest Nairn, the three Inverness teams.
Aye.
Ross County, Brora, the North teams,
Yes.
So yeah, we won that, the League Cup and the Inverness Cup. Then obviously the following season we won the league, and that was just the pinnacle.
Aye. Yeah.
I mean, to win the league with Forest is just never been thought of,
No.
There were the centenary Forest has been 1984. We won the league in 86, so they've been 102 years old. And that was the first time they'd ever won the championship.
Yeah.
And that was a fair old night, I must say. It was a Friday night game. We played Cali on a Friday night.
Yep.
We had to a draw would have won us the league, but we won 2-0.
Aye.
Pelly scored the first goal, and the second one was an own goal. So we got a wee break in the second half. We got a second goal to take the pressure off a bit. But yeah, no, that was a good night. Yeah.
Brilliant.
The whole town of Forest enjoyed that the whole weekend, I think so. Well, I know myself, I was through there the whole weekend.
I'm sure they did, Ronnie.
Yeah.
You scored quite a few goals in your career, Ronnie. I
was fortunate I scored a few. Probably not as much as I would have liked, but the season, my best season was the season we won the league at Forest. I had 28 goals from the season.
Yeah.
But I was fairly regular, like high teens, 20 goals, so.
Aye.
But yeah, I mean, I always think, 'cause I was just a big guy up front, if you like, no pace or whatever, but stick the ball in the box, I've got a chance of getting the end of it,
Aye.
And I always remember one time we played Cali, and we were driving back. I don't know why we went in cars that day, but we were coming back in cars anyway. And we had the radio and listened for the other results coming in, and the report came in from our game, and the reporter, Murray Firth Radio, I remember the reporter saying that I'd scored anyway, and the guy said he scored, and his pace is deceptive, and then the guy said he's slower than he looks. That's what I can compliment that.
That's a backhander if you've ever heard one. Like,
I got no pace, and I always say, I got away with it.
Yeah. What do you reckon's the best goal you scored in your career, Ronnie?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about that when we talked about doing this, and I still think now the best goal was probably all, as well as one of the most important goals.
Mm-hmm.
We played for this league winning season. It was late on in the season, maybe half a dozen games to go, maybe.
Yeah.
And at home to Fort William, now that should have been a banker.
Yes, it should.
For Forest to win the game. And again, we pummeled them for 90 minutes. And we were only up 2-1 late in the game, maybe 85 minutes. And Fort William broke away 2-2, And we were desperate to get the win. Obviously, we're up top of the league and need the points, whatever, And it must have been near stoppage time, but there was never the 10 minutes or 12 minutes you'll get nowadays.
No, 30 seconds.
And we got a corner late on, and I'd sort of peeled off to the back, towards the back post, maybe just outside the corner of the 6-yard box at the back post. And I could see it all the way. It was coming to me all the way, and can still see Jerry Davidson, who played up front with me. Jerry's screaming for me just to lay it off. In front. You know, he was just inside me, and he was free. And I can still see him screaming for the ball. And this thing came out, I just leathered it, you know. And honestly, it could have ended up in the high street in Forest, but it was right in the top corner, you know. And like that was, let's say, won us the game, but it was such an important 3 points at that stage of the season.
Aye.
You know, in a game that we should have been quite comfortable to win.
Yeah.
You know? But no, I can, as I say, I can still see Jerry to this day, and he's like, but it could have went anywhere, but fortunately, it went in the top corner.
That's as long as it goes in. That's the main thing, Ronnie. That's it.
Everyone, a lot of people used to say that. I mean, I think the furthest out one of my goals was about maybe 8 yards.
8 yards. Take it. Aye.
Yeah, they all count.
Exactly, my man. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just going to do a wee bit for the people listening, Ronnie. If you're enjoying listening to us, you want to watch us, you can subscribe to Patreon for £5 a month. You get video exclusive episodes and a whole heap of stuff. There'll be a wee advert at the end of the podcast. I'll tell you exactly what you can get. Give us a follow on Spotify, Apple, Facebook, YouTube. Give us a rating on all of them. It helps people. We're a nice, sweet, independent podcast. I'm going to try and keep as much of the Highland League stuff going because it's super popular. You guys you absolutely love it, and it's one of the most fascinating leagues to dive back into. I've found over the last year and a half. There's so many stories, characters, people to go, and everyone's got their own opinion of it, and I absolutely love it, Ronnie. You had a wee stint at Nairn as well.
Yeah, Nairn. I would say. I reckon I made 2 mistakes. Okay. In my playing days. 2 mistakes in my playing days. Well, apart from mistakes on the field.
Yeah.
The first mistake I made was leaving Forest. Mm-hmm. You know, I shouldn't have left Forest when I did. Although again, you probably don't know this. I actually left Forest to go back to Lossie.
No, I didn't know that.
But Frazee was manager at Lossie, so he took me back to Lossie, and I played up front with Ian Stewart.
Yeah, brilliant.
Later went to Cali, and that was what a goal scorer, you know, tiny little guy, but you never saw him like thump the ball into the net. It was always like almost passed it into the net all the time.
Aye.
But I was only there for like maybe a couple of months, so I don't really count that as a spell. And like again, if I'd played with Stewarty longer, he might have been in my team, you know. But I didn't feel it was right because I only played with him for maybe probably half a dozen games, you know. But yeah, what a goal scorer. But yeah, I went back there, and then Harry, old boss at Forest, Harry McFadden, he got the Nairn job, and he asked me to go and help him out as like player assistant manager. Yeah, and I think it was probably out of loyalty more than anything to Harry, because he took me to Forest and we had a great time at Forest, and help Harry out. Harry was a good lad, you know. I did that time with Harry, played a bit of golf with him and all the rest of it, you know. And I went to help him out at Nairn, but it was never right for me. I never felt comfortable, and I had one season there, and I just didn't enjoy it, you know. So and I thought, well, it's not really for me, you know. So one season at Nairn, and that was me gone from there, you know. So and that was more or less the end of my Highland League playing days. Although I did have one more game later on, but I went to where did I go after that? Lossiemouth United. Yeah,
Lossiemouth United.
Yeah, went back to the juniors. One season with Lossiemouth United in the juniors, where we won the league and I don't know how many cups. Yeah, but we had a really good team. A lot of the guys went on to play Highland League. Ross McHardy, Paul McHardy, Dean Lawson, Paul Webster, Neil Harvey. I don't know if you know Neil. Neil's a good player as well, you know. Drewy Ross.
Yes,
we had a really good Bullet Porter.
Aye, Bullet.
We had a really good team, so we won the league and a couple of cups there. And that's when Chico asked me to go back. Chico got the job at Elgin. Aye. And he asked me to go back and help him out with the training and things like that, you know. So I did that. Neefy was back there as well at the time. That was back to Elgin, and I did play one more game for Elgin at that time.
Okay.
And I was must 36, 37 maybe by this time. And we were really short of players anyway at that stage, because Elgin went through, that was what, 95, 6 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And Elgin never really recovered for the 93 situation, It took them a long time to get past that. We struggled to get players to come and play for Elgin and all this stuff, So I did end up playing one game against Fort William at Borough Briggs, and that would have been my final league game, if you like.
Aye.
I think overall, Lee, my best days were also at Forest.
Aye, absolutely.
And mates at Forest who still mates today.
Mm-hmm.
It's 40 years next year since we won the league at Forest. 1986.
Are you having a celebration for this?
Well, there's been nothing. The club's done nothing since we won it.
Wow. Okay.
We've had nothing done. So I'm hoping somebody might hear this and they think, well, we need to do something. Because I'll certainly be coming back for that. I did come back in 2016 when it was 30 years, but just a group of the guys. The players got together ourselves,
Aye.
And in fact, something, I think that might have been the last time I saw Pelly.
Okay.
He came through to it,
Yeah.
So that was 10 years ago, So hopefully the club might do something,
Aye.
Because, there's unfortunately, there's two of the team that night have passed away, So in 40 years, there's none of us getting any younger,
No.
So hopefully they'll do something.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, my man.
Guys, I was going to say about that Forest team. We had Pelly came in. He would have been what you call the superstar of the team, if you like. But other than that, just good, solid players.
Yeah.
Guys like Kevin Walker. Kevin was good player. Soapy Soapy Common, Joe Mulholland, Brian Minty. Don't know if you've heard of Brian.
Yes, aye.
Unbelievable. He was a great player, but what a lad. Honestly, Jesus. So now I like, obviously being abroad now, it's difficult to see these guys like regular, if you like, but Messenger and all these things, keep in touch with them through that. So
that's a godsend.
And that's, as I say, friendships going back 40 plus years.
Yeah. It's good.
Great guys.
The WhatsApp groups have a wonderful use these days and things like that. It's good for keeping in touch with old pals and that.
Yeah.
So a sponsor. Got a sponsor.
About time.
Yeah, about time. Thank you to Chris Foot, Elgin City director, Elgin City women's team director, for sponsors for the season. You're going to be hearing Chris Foot a hell of a lot over the next year.
Yes, in the words of former guest Chris Saunderson, if it moves, Chris Foot can get it sponsored.
Yep. And this podcast is definitely moving in the right direction.
See, this is good advertisement right now.
So Chris is going to be coming to an episode as well.
Entering the sweepstakes of who's been in the studio on all podcasts that are produced in here.
Yeah, because it's a running one between
you,
myself, Dom,
Matty Slinger, Chris Saunderson. I know he kind of hosts two of them, but
Chris Foot.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of like, let's just say, pimping ourselves out to podcasts. But yeah, Chris will be on to speak about Elgin City Women, Man City, unfortunately for Ryan.
Well,
but
it was looking like it was going to go horribly right, didn't it? But now it's kind of looking like it's going down.
To be fair to Chris, he's a Man City fan since like the 80s.
Yeah, so he's been at like York and the Paul Dickov playoff final and all that stuff.
Down in like the third division and stuff like that. So he's a proper Man City fan. So thank you to Chris Foot for sponsoring us for the year. You'll be seeing his name all over our posts, all over our social media, hearing his name a lot in the podcast, but it's for a good reason, because he's helping us keep the lights on at the Lighthouse Podcast Studio. Okay, right, before we get into 11, I'm interested to know this one, because there's a couple of you've got a couple of wee high points in your career, Ronnie, and what would you say is your proudest achievement in football? Scoring the winner?
My achievement in football was obviously winning the Hidden League. With Forest, and even for me personally, as I've said so many times in the past, I know myself. I was never like up there with your top Highland League players, whatever. But I gave it my best shot, and like to play at that level for so long, an achievement for me.
Aye.
Again, I never really had the confidence to go here, there, or anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I said there was a couple of times I had a chance to go to Cali. Once when Alec Main was manager way back, that'd been late 70s, my Lossie time. I feel like just 16, 17, 18 years old.
Yes.
Then later on, Ray McIntosh was manager. But again, I just didn't have the confidence,
Aye.
And like, I was probably not scared, but like, I didn't have the confidence to go and mix with these guys who were all, okay, I was still quite young at the time, but in hindsight, that's maybe something I should have just taken a chance.
Aye. Aye.
Because I don't know if, again, you probably haven't heard of a guy called Johnny Cowie.
No.
Johnny was at Lossie. Now, Johnny Cowie and Ian Stephen from Forest, they played for Inverness Thistle. Now, they're older,
Yeah.
They were scoring 50, 60 goals a season,
Okay.
And I remember Johnny Cowie saying to me one time, because he came back and played at Lossie, and he said, if you get the chance to go to, your Carleys, your Elgins, or whatever, you've got to do it.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
And at the time, I remember saying, "Oh yeah, definitely," But when the chance came, I thought, "Oh shit!" But eventually, I did go to Elgin. Obviously, but that was a bit easier to go to Elgin.
Aye.
But again, in saying that, when you're playing for Elgin, when you come from Elgin, unless you're actually winning regular
pressure,
it can be a hard shift. It's great when you're winning, you get everyone want to speak to you and this, that, and the other. But when things aren't going so well, and at the time there was only 3 or 4 of us from Elgin, the rest were Aberdeen based, so we were getting all the flack.
Yep.
The 4 of us taking it for everyone.
Yeah.
So, but it's that's the way football is, But
I thought I could get by an episode without mentioning, but I've got to look at when you say things like that. Young Soapy Cameron, who's been a part of that Elgin team for the last 15 years, when we've not had a good team at all at certain points, and you've just mentioned that pressure. He's bound to feel that pressure, but he's always so calm and collected and just plays his natural game, doesn't he? It's not.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, as mentioned earlier a few times, like his father, Graham, and Diane, his mother. I mean, I've been friends with them all my life, and I've remembered when Brian was born, It's like, so I've known Brian all his life, if you like, and for him to, I don't know, 500 odd games or whatever it is now, and to stay there, I think, and you look at him, I think earlier on in his career, I think somebody should have taken a chance.
I think so, yeah.
Even your Carleys or Ross Counties, somebody local.
Yep.
Give the boy a chance. I mean, and he would have probably done better with better players round about him.
Aye.
So, I think he's one that maybe sort of missed the boat, if you like, or never got the chance, maybe,
Yeah.
But as I say, I still catch up with him when I go back, and I always speak to Brian when I'm back.
Aye, good lad, brilliant lad, Brian.
Yeah.
1 to 11 time, Ronnie. This is an interesting one because I've had I counted through earlier on before we came on. This is Neefy's 9th mention. So Neefy, if you're listening to here, or if anyone can get in touch with Neefy, convince him to come on here, because he's had.
Something. I was just going to say, Lee, it'd be great to get like a Neefy, Soapy. Big Soapy, I don't know if he'll come on.
He's not interested. No, I've already asked. He's not interested.
Get him on. But no, it'd be good. Yeah, but no, Neefy, it's like, as I say, we grew up together. We're actually distantly related. It's like second or third cousins or something like that. But
that's
anyway,
mad, yeah.
By the by. But we started playing Highland League with Neefy at Lossie. Neefy played at Lossie for a wee bit and then came up to Elgin, but Neef could play like right back, left back, but like any of the full back positions, he'd be comfortable.
Aye.
Aye. But he's had a few mentions I've noticed in all the other podcasts.
Absolutely. He's most popular by a mile. He's got 9 mentions. So your 11 goes, we'll read it through. You've given me a 4-3-3, which is good. I'm a 4-3-3 man myself on it. Bobby Gray from Forest, Ronnie Brown Elgin, Chico Elgin, Steve Mackay, For Forest, Neefy at Elgin. Soapy, you've put it doing Forest, but you'll know him from your time at Forest. A lot of people who listen here maybe know him from his time at Elgin, but
I
Soapy,
played with him at Forest.
Soapy had the majority of his career at Forest. A lot of people forget that. His second mention, Graham Masson. Craig Christie actually mentioned him in his 11 as one of the best players he's ever seen in playing in the Highland League. Donny McCulloch, he mentioned the late Donny McCulloch there. And then your front three, which is quite frightening actually, of Frazee, Pelly and Jerry Davidson. So
not a bad lineup.
It's not a bad lineup at all, my man. One of the players we're going to get into first is Ronnie Brown, because Ronnie Brown's not been mentioned here on the football journals before.
I think if you speak to guys, my age, around about my age, of guys who played in the Highland League at that time, Ronnie Brown was such a good right back. Unfortunately, he's passed away as well now. But Ronnie, he was captain of Elgin when I went there. Between him and George McAndrew, I think. But now Ronnie was a good player, and he used to obviously being a striker, he used to swing in some great crosses. Get an overlap run going on, and the good thing about Ronnie Brown was he put them in first time.
Yes,
you didn't have to wait. The amount of times I watch football now, and somebody gets the byline, they turn back and they start passing it back the way, Just get the byline, get it across the goal, And Ronnie Brown used to be so good at that. He was a good lad as well, Ronnie, a really nice guy, So Ronnie was a top man.
Steve Mackay at Forest. Yeah,
Steve's probably one of these guys. Him and Chico would have played well together.
Okay,
they were both the same sort of ilk, if you like. I mean, Chico would have been, when you say the more aggressive, if you like. But Steve was built like a pencil.
Okay,
but bloody hard as nails.
Right.
He actually got injured in one game. I remember at Forest, probably maybe 20 minutes to go, and he played on. As I say, hard as nails, and it came off afterwards. He'd a broken kneecap.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
But he played for another 20 minutes.
Oh,
But again, and Steve, a likeable guy. I think Steve, he's from Ardeshire, up that neck. He would play for Nairn County and whatever.
Yeah.
Came down to Forest, but top guy as well. And for a guy built like that, honestly, he was like a stick. He could drink some amount of beer.
Oh, brilliant. So for a second mention on the podcast, Graham Masson, just a classic kind of player, wasn't he? He was. Yeah,
Graham was one of these guys. Another guy, like Chico-esque, if you like, but he would just run through a brick wall.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Up and down that pitch the whole day, and heart again. But a bit the, I wouldn't say dirty, but a bit of hardness about him, and put himself about, and just for somebody to sit in the midfield, and look, the two other ones I've got there, Soapy and Donny McCulloch. They would leave them free to
just run
forward and get goals. And
when I listen back to Craig Christie, he says that Graham could play a bit as well, though.
Graham could play, definitely. Yeah. No, Graham was a good player as well. Yeah. In fact, again, I met him maybe 2 trips ago when I was back at Garmouth Golf Club, of all places. He was playing golf at Garmouth.
All right.
Because Graham's, I think he's Banff. He's based in Banff or Macduff or some of these places.
Aye.
But he was golfing. I just happened to bump into him. So it was good to see him after 40 years or whatever.
So your front three, as I say, you'd be pretty much any Highland League get away with this front three, and it's going to do a bit of damage.
Yeah.
Ronnie,
thanks.
Frazee was a good.
Would have,
sorry. No, on you go for it, Ronnie.
Yeah, I was going to say Jerry and Pelly. Okay, you've got Frazee who would run all day as well. Frazee, and Frazee was another one. He could look after himself.
Yep, I've heard this before.
Yep. And he could leave his boot in when he had to. But a great winger, And you got Pelly and Jerry. I don't know if you know much about Jerry Davidson, but
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I've not found out too much though.
Yeah, Jerry came to Forest when Bobby Gray came, the goalkeeper. Bobby there's one car coming up from Aberdeen with Bobby, so if you can get better players than you've got at Forest, why not just fill the car?
Aye.
So Jerry was at Keith, so he eventually came up to Forest. But Jerry was at Dundee as a youngster, playing like full time with Dundee.
Okay. Yep.
And he came into Highland League, but you could tell straight away Jerry had a bit of class about him. You know? And it's like his first touch and everything was just sublime. You know, and he could score a goal.
Yes.
Jerry could like free kicks, whatever, and just getting on the end of things. He could get a goal, you know. And then, I mean, Pelly speaks for himself. He does. He could just about do anything, but so laid back, unbelievable.
Aye.
You know?
Yeah. No, he is. Even when he was in here speaking, he was just like.
Yeah, I watched that one.
he's some man. He's just like, he'll give you everything. He's the kind of guy, right? He's very full on, but like he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. And I think people kind of build up a picture of Pelly, maybe what they've heard about him and things. Yeah, and he will blow every concept of you have about him out the window in that first 5 minutes of meeting him, because he's so down to earth and just a lovely guy. One of the questions I've started adding in, Ronnie, is do you have a manager for your 11?
Well, again, I would go way back at the start. I've got like a couple of guys who really helped me, if you like.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah,
the first one was Bobby Wilson. Obviously, and Bobby, like, he helped me with my game quite a bit. You know, he took me aside a few times and did different drills and, you know, just things to help me and like improve, if you like.
Yeah,
he helped me way back the early days. Well, even before that, you go back to school days, and I've heard this guy's name mentioned a few times as well, Innes McDonald.
Yep, John mentioned him a few times, yeah.
Yeah, he was a PE teacher at Elgin Academy when I was there, and he always encouraged you, you know. He was a hard case, Mark. You knew where you stood with Innes, you know. But Innes, then Bobby Wilson, then obviously when I went to Forest, Harry, there was something about Harry. It was just he gave him my confidence back. You know, like, second season at Elgin, wasn't really playing, and sort of probably down the dumps a wee bit, and just wanted to get out and play. And I didn't have much confidence. And then Harry and Alec at Forest, they sort of helped me out greatly there as well. You know, so I mean, I would say any of that three could manage this lot. You know, so in fact, Innes did manage Pelly at Nairn County.
He did, yeah, he did. Thank you for joining us so early in the morning, Ronnie. It's actually it's 8:30 at night here, but if you're over in the next kind of wee while, what we'll do is I'm maybe going to get a couple of years in, maybe get you, Frazee, and that, and a couple of years in at the same time, maybe just to reminisce a bit on some of the old times, you know. That would be good to
that'd be greatly. Yeah, I'd love to do that sometime. Yeah. As I say, hopefully somebody at Forest will maybe get something going for the 40th anniversary celebration next year. I'll definitely be back for that. So,
what I've actually, this is some inside info, but one of my coaches at I run Bishop Mill Welfare, the new Bishop Mill team. One of my coaches there is actually a director at Forest, so I'm going to speak to him and see if there's anything that is going to be put in place for you, because as you say, that's a huge achievement. Not very often a Forest team won the league. And
well, that's it. They've still only won it twice in the history, you know.
Yeah.
So and as I say, I thought, 40 years the club have really done nothing about it, you know.
No,
I mean, I still go to Forest games and meet everyone there, you know. So
it's a well-run club.
To do something, you know. Yeah.
The podcast always finishes off the same, Ronnie. I'm interested because, well, I'm going to ask a question before this question. Were you a penalty taker in your career?
I did take penalties for Forest for a while, yeah. Yeah.
Did you have a technique?
I did for a while, and then I missed a couple, so I changed everything, and I thought, right, I'll just blast them, you know.
Yep.
So I think the first two penalties after that, I took them at the top end at Mossett Park.
Yeah.
I think both penalties ended up in Tesco's car park, so I stopped taking them after that altogether.
Okay.
The blasting never worked. So,
no. Okay, one penalty to save your life, Ronnie. Who takes the penalty?
Well, I'll tell you, it certainly wouldn't be me. Yeah, but no, I'll be quite honest. There's a guy, I have heard his name in some of the podcasts before, and I heard a wee spell at Elgin, actually, a guy called Joe Mulholland.
Okay.
Heard that one?
The name is ringing a bell for some reason.
Yeah. Joe, like, what a striker of a ball, you know?
Yep.
Quite a stocky, probably chubby wee guy, you know? But thighs on him, Jesus. And free kicks, penalties, whatever. Joe, like, just buried them, you know?
Aye.
He could take, like, 40-yard free kick straight in the top corner. It would never deviate, you know, just be straight as a bloody arrow, you know? So yeah, I would put money on Joe to score a penalty. 100 times out of 100. Yeah, easily.
Great answer, mate. Great answer.
As I say, certainly not me, Lee. Yeah, I wouldn't be saving my life. Yeah.
Right, good man, Ronnie. I'll speak to you soon, pal. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, good, Lee. Thanks so much for that. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers, pal. Take care. Football Journals is now on Patreon. If you sign up on Patreon for just £5 a month, you can get access to our upcoming guests and the chance to ask your own questions, the ability to watch our podcast with full video exclusive, audio only on all other platforms. You can get your episodes earlier than anyone else, sometimes a few days, sometimes a week, but you will get your episodes earlier than everyone else. Chance to request guests of your choice. We will do our utmost to get them on the show, if obviously within reason. I can't go asking Cristiano Ronaldo on the show. And one bonus episode per month. There's already a bonus episode on there. You'll get a further bonus episode every month. Sign up today at patreon.com/footballjournals, capital F, capital J. That's sign up today at patreon.com/footballjournals, capital F, capital J.